Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's game day. Yes. 1st of February, Wednesday. Celtic play Livingston tonight. We'll get to that. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 Twitter handle, which you all know off by heart by now. And I'm joined today by just one person, and that's Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW Twitter handle. Young Aiden's on some kind of back shift, isn't he? He's
back shaft, right?
Yes, back shaft, indeed. Yes, you got a long line to do. So, if you're watching Aiden, hello. If you're in your bed, enjoy your sleep. There you go.
But to be fair to him, Tony had a late night last night. He was on the back shaft again for the transfer deadline day, even though we'll come to the fact that it wasn't particularly busy for Celtic anyway. So,
and I think he would have been thankful for small mercies on that one, that he wasn't too busy in both ways. But there you go. Now, I'll direct you to the bottom of the screen. And a new deal today, Sean. New month, so subscribe to the Celtic Way website. It'll cost you £2 for 2 months. You can help us continue to produce top quality Celtic content covering a club like no other. Celtic, as you know, you can join us, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. So that's £2 for 2 months for access to everything that we do and right on the website. Sean, another good deal there.
Aye, it is. Aye, it's quite sad that the Frankie deal's ended, because I quite enjoyed that. One, and it did really well. And I mean, you'll all get, if you did subscribe in time, you'll get your Callum McGregor print. I think the next couple of weeks they're getting sent out. Mid-February is the aim for that. So aye,
we'll look out for them if you subscribe, and we thank you for that. And we also thank our sponsors, SENECA Medical Group, and the Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Now, you alluded to it there, Sean. It's a quiet transfer window for Celtic. Josip Juranovic left the building. Georgios Giakoumakis is still in the throes of leaving the building, but that should go through. Moritz Jens left the building, and Oliver Abelgard also was moved on. He signed for Hellas Verona last night. And obviously Celtic brought in Alistair Johnston, Tomoki Iwata, Yoki Kobayashi and Oh Hyung-gyu. So all good, Sean. They got a couple of players out that they wanted to. Surprised that any more didn't move on?
Given that you were getting into the last day and you're talking up to about 5 or 6 could potentially have gone, it maybe was. Yeah. It maybe wasn't surprising that more didn't. But overall, in terms of the window as a whole, then I think I was kind of hoping that maybe a couple more would move on. I mean, that given there's still windows open worldwide, that's why the Giakoumakis thing's there's no real rush for that. If it's Atlanta United or Urawa, it's obviously understood to be Atlanta. Then that can get done over the next few days without any real emergency, without any real alert. So the other ones, I suppose, James McCarthy, Yusuke Yaguchi, players like that, I thought Stephen Welsh was apparently the subject, or reportedly the subject, of a couple of bids. He's staying put by the looks of it, unless, of course, it's an American team or out with the deadline day over here. But I think maybe surprising that more didn't move overall. But in the context of it being the last day, we were sitting yesterday talking about 5 or 6 names. It's maybe not surprising it wasn't as many as that.
And as you said there, Giakoumakis, he can conclude that deal. I think if you signal your intention to conclude a deal and their transfer window still open, I believe the MLS, isn't it? For
that's still open. That's fine.
I believe, yeah.
That's fine.
That should go through, shouldn't it? Yes, indeed. Happy with the business done, Sean?
Yes, I am. I think I've written a piece on it. It's on the website. I'll put that link in just now. And it's basically saying, like, I saw comments from actually Crystal Palace chairman Steve Parish that said the two kind of most treacherous times to get the right deals done, in his opinion, and a lot of people agree with this, is mid-season, so a January transfer window, and after a World Cup, which for the first time both of those collided at the one time this year. So you were getting a January transfer window right after a World Cup, which isn't obviously usually the case. So both of those treacherous things collided. And I genuinely think that Celtic, if they went into that kind of, say, post-World Cup mid-season bubble in the way that they maybe have approached previous windows in January, then I think they could have been tripped up and caught cold. But the fact that they've gone in with a cogent, coherent plan for the way that they want to do these windows, to the extent that it's almost a misnomer to call it a January transfer window, because 2 years in a row they've had people in before it's even January. Yes. I think that speaks volumes to the way that the club's been trying to operate in that framework now in terms of transfers. And for me, the way to sum it up, I suppose, is Brian Roberts right at the start earlier on. Morning, guys. Great not having to wait till midnight for incoming players, because everything was done.
Yeah.
As Postecoglou had the benefit of sitting there at his pre-match press conference at the back of 2, at the back of 1, and saying, "Nah, there's no more coming in. It's done. We've already done what we wanted to do this window."
He was in fine form, the manager, yesterday, was he not, Sean? Talking about various things, but he was pains to stress that he's been constantly backed by the club.
Yep.
And talking about budgets, he came away with that wonderful comment about the budget and Celtic being the biggest club and all that kind of stuff. And the fans seem to like that. But he was fairly relaxed about everything yesterday, wasn't he? And he said that was the point of doing their business early. And he was even asked about specific individual players leaving and came away with the mastermind quote as well. And sort of, he was in a playful mood, I thought, yesterday. He was good value. Not that he's never good value, but I just thought he was tremendous value yesterday, because he just seemed to be a man happy and content with what happened in January, and just looking forward now to the business end of the season, the part where he wants his team to get stronger and better and improve on last season.
I think so. I think you could sense it in him. I think that he's really, really quite happy with the business done. And I know he'd probably resigned himself already that either one or both of Juranovic and Giakoumakis would go.
Yeah.
Alistair Johnston was in the door before January. All right, took a wee bit longer, but he got his man and it was still a week to spare. So realistically, what more do you want? Like, there was even a couple of extra players on top of that, left-footed, left-sided centre-back, Yuki Kobayashi, for instance, I think was a bonus. I think that was a real coup to get someone in for that position specifically. And all right, it meant Maurice Jentz's loan was cut short, but again, that was a suck it and see nature. He done all right, but he was the odd one out. He was the one on loan. So yeah, I think Tomoki Iwata on top of that, J1 League MVP on loan with an obligation to buy, and reportedly it's about 1 million for an MVP. I think that's great business as well. So as much as I'm saying, and I agree with the Steve Parish thing in terms of it's very easy to get sucked into a mid-season bubble, it's very easy to get sucked into a post-World Cup bubble. But to me, that just speaks even more to the fact that Celtic actively know what they're doing now when they get into these transfer windows. It's not let's just see what happens, let's see who we got offered, let's see what comes up, let's see who played well for the last month in Qatar, that kind of thing. If anything, they've taken advantage of that.
I've said it before, Sean, and I even said it to Ange Postecoglou when I was standing next to him in Australia when we were talking to at one point. It's just great to see Celtic acting like a big club and conducting their business, transfers and otherwise, on and off the field, the way a big club can. And I know there's financial parameters for Ange, and I get all that, but Celtic are still acting like a big club and doing what they can do to the best of their ability, but they're doing it right and they're doing it well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to ask you, you claiming it as a win? Gary McDowell says Giakoumakis still at the club after the 31st of January, Tony, so you were right, technically.
I don't know if I can claim that. I think that's stretching it, but yeah, I did nail my colours to the mast and say I wanted him to stay. But if Gary's going to give me an assist on that or a win on that, then I'm happy with that. Others probably wouldn't, but yeah, I mean, technically he's still here, but he is for the off, isn't he? So.
Who cares coming in? Tony saying, are Celtic stronger after the transfer window? Now that's always the key question when you come to looking at the transfer window. The reason I've not posted my depth chart on Twitter, by the way, is because I want to wait until Giakoumakis is actually away, so I can just say this is the squad depth for the rest of the season, that kind of thing. But there is a squad depth chart, or there's 2 squad depth chart actually in that piece that I posted. The question of whether they're stronger, right? To me, it depends, I suppose, how quickly the new signings settle, because especially a couple of them have actually replaced people that played. So there's that perspective, but just objectively, or as objectively as possible, Tony, you've essentially, you've essentially swapped Giakoumakis, Juranovic, and Jens for Alistair Johnston, Iwata, Kobayashi, and then you've removed Oliver Abelgard as well. So to me, that's at the very least that's staying with the same level of quality. But given that the ages of these replacements are actually younger, and therefore, as I always say, the potential is arguably better than what a player actually is when they come at 28, that kind of thing, then I could make the case, that they have strengthened, but a lot of that will be down to how well O and Alistair Johnston in particular do, given that they've actively replaced players that were playing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think Celtic are stronger after this transfer window, and that's what the manager wants. And he said that he got in, I think, all of his targets, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think he said.
I just noticed, Tony, I could have just put up this comment. Steve McGrory says exactly what I just said there. I never noticed until I'd said it. But Steve says, as Ange says, the proof of the pudding will be in how the new boys perform, particularly Johnston and O, as they're replacing Juranovic and Giakoumakis. That said, Steve thinks it has been a good window, and I think we both agree.
Yeah, totally. It's been another terrific window, and it just shows you the importance of getting your business done early, so there isn't that scrambling about. And Ange said you kind of plan ahead for that, and I guess he knew that Juranovic and Giakoumakis were for the off, and he sorted it out very early, didn't he? So it's and again, I go back to that's what I'm talking about, acting like a big club. Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. Andrew, brilliant his interview yesterday, but no, not scrambling about. The comment earlier about I think it was Brian saying not wait until midnight and all that. Celtic, of the past would be doing that, would have been scrambling to get a striker in or a defender, having let somebody important go. That's just not been the case since Ange Postecoglou's come in, and as I say, he was at pains to say that he's been supported all the way by the board and Michael Nicholson, so you have to big up them as well for working in tandem with the manager, and that's all you can ask for from a Celtic side, Sean. You work within your financial parameters, but you get the best out there. And Ange Postecoglou's making use of his extensive knowledge of players in the Asian market, and they're bringing in very good players to the club. Yeah, Derek Crawford, it's just great we're not chasing replacement at the 11th hour. Exactly. I mean, how many transfer windows have Celtic did exactly that in the past, and left sweating after a vital player going out the door. So I'm just delighted the way the club are conducting their transfer business, and just the way the manager's conducting himself, and the way the board are helping the manager right now. Just that old phrase, isn't it? Everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet. But I've said it before, when it's working in unison, it's a very powerful thing.
Yep. Getting back to your point about previous windows and stuff, I referenced a few in that piece. 2021, I think, sticks in the mind, sticks in the craw for a lot of people in terms of obviously John Joe Kenny, who I actually thought started all right, but the way that they ended that season, I think, in microcosm showed you a structural issue, and that was that they ended that season with 3 loanees in their regular back four, which is just an unsustainable kind of way to run it. Whether I referenced do you remember Andrew Gutman and Manny Perez, that window a couple of years prior? Yeah. I mean, you all have examples that you can point to, January windows, whether it's summer windows, January windows. I was talking about January windows in the piece. Specifically, the one I remember and I've mentioned on here is the Stephen Fletcher non-window where he didn't come back January 2009. That's always one that sticks in my head. But I do point out that it is kind of unfair as well, because in January the club's made some massive signings. Tangibly affected the kind of the path that the club's been on over the past couple of decades. I named a couple, Tony. You'll probably be able to guess them if you've not. I don't know if you've read it already, but Chris Commons, Mikael Lustig, Barry Robson. That's arguably my favourite. Lee Griffiths as well. He was a January signing. There are plenty of examples of January window signings working out, but it's still, I think, the last 2 January windows have been just that wee bit different, just in the way that they've gone about it. Again, the fact that some of them weren't even signed in January, they were signed in December, they were in the door, they were ready to go. I just think the last 2 have been a wee bit different, Tony, and I think it's great to see that, given, as I say, the context of this being a historically dangerous time after a World Cup and a January window.
You mentioned the phrase there that they were oven-ready players, Sean, for January, both windows, ready to go straight into the first team, and I think that's what the manager planned for, and obviously Celtic have reaped the rewards of that. Now, Sean, a game of association football is being played tonight.
Yep.
And we did what we always do, the three of us, myself, yourself and Aidan, and we put in our predicted 11s. And you're going to flash them up on the screen, and everybody's going to shout and scream and throw things at their screen and say, no, you're wrong, and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, there we go. We'll do the prediction all the time, guys. Throw your own comment section. Yeah, if you want to go with mine first, that's fine. There you go. We both agreed, didn't we, that we might see Kobayashi and Carter Vickers together?
Well, I've gone with that because I want to see them together more than I necessarily think that he will. I think he might go Starfelt, but I've gone Kobayashi as well. You'll see in a minute. Yeah. But it's going for Tony 6 clean sheets in 7 matches. This would be.
Yeah.
And I've kind of made my point in the article that I've put there. And I've linked to there. We've obviously gave our actual explanations, but for me, you don't really necessarily think you need to rotate at the back since you're keeping clean sheets. But my point is that he's already been rotating in amongst the 5 clean sheets now, whether it was through injury or selection or try to get Kobayashi a game, whatever. So he's already done it. So that for that reason alone, I can't necessarily say, he'll not change it. So I've taken the punt with Kobayashi as well. Will you?
I'm like you. I just think a lot of Celtic fans are curious to see the 2 of them together as well. And it ain't necessarily broken. It doesn't need fixed, but maybe a wee tweak here and there, a wee tinker, as they say. And I've gone the same, Kobayashi and Carter Vickers. My midfield, I've just thought that, I just think he wants to, Jason Lee, love to see Turnbull start. I don't know, there's just something in my head that thinks he maybe wants to give Turnbull more game time. And I just think this is a game suited to him. And I've rotated Hatate. Lots of people might say, why he's rotating Hatate? And no other reason, just squad rotation and just to fit Turnbull in, because I genuinely think he wants Turnbull up to speed as quickly as possible. Can't see him drop Starfelt after Andy's praise of him. I can see him drop Starfelt. I can go the other way and see. I can see.
The thing is, I'm like JJ. We'd already picked this. It was a newsletter last night, so I didn't want to go and change it between the newsletter and the article on the website. But when I read everything he said about Starfelt, I was kind of like, he's not going to rotate him out now. But I don't. I've went with Kobayashi, so we'll see.
Okay, that's fine.
You're saying about Hatate, Tony. It would be his, pardon me. It would be his 17th successive Premiership start if he is picked from the start again. Unlikely a lot of players get that length of kind of run under Ange Postecoglou with his rotation policy. I think that speaks to the trust he's got in Hatate, doesn't it? When you get Turnbull sitting there wanting a game. Yeah.
And that's another reason why I've thrown him in now. I'm not perturbed either way. If he plays Hatate, so be it. Chilpel says he might rest Hatate. Well, that was just my thoughts. We try and second guess the manager. If you say it's a pointless task, but we enjoy doing it, don't we, Sean?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Love picking it.
And we have fun with it, and that's what it's all about. It's a bit of fun as well. As I say, throw your own team in there. Tomoki Rio and Cal Max's Derek Crawford. Well, there you go. You might well bring in Iwata.
I'm going to put my team up just now,
Sean.
And I'm going to say, because I've also not picked Haksabanovic, and Charlie McGarvey says is Haksabanovic too good to hang around with little prospect of first team football. I think, given he's had injuries and stuff, I don't think it's quite at that level yet, because I do think when he is fit and firing and when he gets a run of games, which I do think he will get, I think they all at some stage get runs of games, and rotation is just a part and parcel of what they need to deal with. I think he'll make a serious case that he should be in. But right now, I don't think it's at that level, given he's just coming back from an injury again the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Haksabanovic will be eased in over the course of the next few weeks. He's got too much to offer, Sean, and Celtic fans do want to see more of him. And he was just hitting a wee bit of form when he got his injury. And I think like everything else, it's a slow process with these guys coming back. But Haksabanovic will make his mark, and it'll be sooner rather than later, I think.
Steve McGrory coming in, just picked me up on the successor starts Premiership only is what I said to Steve. It's Morton, unfortunately. Morton are not in the top flight.
Fair enough.
I mean, I've got the same front three as you. We both think Maida will come back in after a wee spell on the bench.
Despite his woeful miss on Sunday at Tannadice, Maida, I think you've got the nod over Abada. I think that Abada was handed that start on Sunday and he was largely anonymous for, large spells in the game. And I want more from Abada in these kind of games. I don't think it's too much to ask. And you look at Jota. Jota was bang at it from the start. Abada just seemed a bit sluggish to me. And, so I think when Maida came on, at least he offered something. He was getting in there. And I've been loving the way Maida's been playing. I think he's been very unfortunate to be rotated. But again, it's just the nature of what the manager does, isn't it, to keep everybody on their toes. But I think you can't.
It's part of the strength that's there that if you have that kind of wee dip, however momentary, it might lead to you not getting a start in the next game. So,
but your front three and my front three are the front three I would start with tonight because I think they could be quite potent, and I think they are the ones that could get in behind the Livingston defence and get the goals. Kyogo trying for his 21st goal this season, Sean.
Yeah.
He missed.
Do you think there's any chance that O gets a start now?
Listen, I wouldn't rule it out because it's Sanj Postecoglou, isn't it? And you know what he's like. But I think he'll get half an hour though, Sean. I think he might be hopeful that the game will be put to bed by the hour mark. And if so, I think he would give him half an hour rather than like the 8 minutes or 8 to 13 minutes, including injury time that he got on Sunday at Tannadice. But I think his plan tonight will be to give O half an hour because he has talked up the fact that O's ready to go and can contribute right away. So I think his thinking would be to give him at least half an hour tonight.
David Fletcher coming in saying he wants O to start purely for the sub-editor quips. As a former sub-editor myself, he's a gimme, Tony, isn't he? See if he comes on against Livingston and scores right away. Picture him celebrating. Oh, what a night! Easy.
Oh, what a night! Exactly, correct. Oh, what a night! It's all there, isn't it? Indeed. Yep.
Well, we've got Aiden's team here. He's not here to defend himself, Tony, but
so we'll just slot him in.
He's went with Starfelt, and really, there's nothing controversial about the rest of his team. I don't think we can give him too much jip for it, but
no, he's favoured Starfelt alongside Carter Vickers, Kobayashi on the bench. Same midfield as yourself, Sean, isn't it? And the same front three as yourselves. Yeah, fair enough. Turnbull being the one difference from my team, from Aiden's team. Yeah, I mean that's again going back to the strength and depth. That's a very strong team, isn't it?
Yep. I mean, there's a couple of comments, as there always is, about what flank Jota should be on. John McGlinch is saying Jota on the left always. I mean, either or. Both have played on the right, both have played on the left. They'll switch. The only one that really doesn't switch that much is Abada. Yeah. But they've certainly both, Maida and Jota, have played more on the left than they have on the right, but they've both played on the right as well. So you can interchange them as you kind of want. What I'll say is, and I'll go back to this again, Alan Morrison, back earlier in the season when it was a genuine kind of debate, like what wing should he play on? Alan did a statistical deep dive into, Jota right or left, and the kind of conclusion with that was, one, it doesn't really matter because he's going to play to a high level regardless, but two, the only real difference was whether you want him as Jota the scorer or Jota the creator, because he creates more for his teammates from the right, he scores more from the left. Ultimately, I don't care really which wing he's on as long as he's on. But
he's got 17 goals and 17 assists, John and Sean. And his interview yesterday, just watched him as a man happy at his work. He was sitting there laughing and smiling away, and Will McMillan, Aidan's probably nailed it. We'll find out in the fullness of time, Will. And he was asked all sorts of things yesterday, and he was carrying on with the journalists, which I love to see. He was asked at one point, he was part of the old guard, and he just like, no, I'm not part of the old guard. Then he was asked about his rare-headed goal. He played homage to Callum McGregor, actually, when he was asked about being one of the old guard. And then he was asked about his headed goal, and he admitted he was hopeless at headers. So he was surprised he scored a header, but he enjoyed it and he was happy with it. But yeah, and I think happy player just transmits on the field, doesn't it? That he's expressing himself and he's given that freedom to express himself. And when Jota performs, Celtic perform, don't they?
Aye, he's full of personality, Tony, whether it's in the press conference or on the pitch. Is what I would say. He's full of personality. And Jason Lee saying he's looked lively of late. Hope he starts. Wombat saying he agrees Jota's in a good place at the minute. I've put in a link to it was on the website yesterday. Stuart Ross broke down Jota's performance against Dundee United in the context of it looks like he's getting back to that level that we all know, we all love. And you said it. I called it a double-double last year because of the NBA tendencies that I've got still sometimes, but he's going to get that again this year. Double figures for goals, double figures for assists. And when you look at the kind of style of football that he plays, how much of an entertainer he is, for him to have that consistent end product, both assisting and scoring, that's why he's kind of probably the most feared guy in Scottish football, because he'll beat you and he can beat you again 3 or 4 times, but he will probably score at the end of it or set someone up as well. There's plenty of wingers flat to deceive in that sense, but he just does not. And
this season he's produced some iconic moments. I mean, that header at Tannadice was sensational. How he got it in from that angle. Obviously, goal against Rangers, that iconic Jimmy Johnston celebration as well. You know, he's getting his sparkle back. And, you know, when as I say, when Jota functions, Celtic are a powerful attacking weapon, and not a lot of teams can keep them at bay. And it's good to see, especially in the lead up to what we know is coming at near the end of this month, Sean.
Aye, I mean, it's in terms of tonight, after his performance against Dundee United, I don't think he drops out. So then, for me, it became a question of, does Abada keep his place? Because I really think that Maida is going to come back in. Yeah. So, Abada's been dropped after coming on and play. Abada's been dropped after getting man of the match and stuff before. I say dropped, rotated. Maybe harsh to say the word dropped. Do you know what I mean? But so it's not with the realms of possibility that even if he'd had a really good game against Dundee United, that he'd have dropped out anyway. It wasn't his sparkling best. Pardon me. So I'm getting the Ange Postecoglou cough, I think. So for me, it's natural that someone else comes in. Could be Haksabanovic because he is due a wee start probably. I just feel Maida, given how well he was playing and he was on the bench at the last game, so I think it's probably him. And obviously you and Aidan must agree.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all predicted the same front three, so that tells you something, doesn't it?
Tells me it'll be Abada, Forrest, and O up front. That's what it tells me.
Haksabanovic and everybody else. Nah. Again, Sean, I always say it. You know, you can make changes and you can rotate, but you've got to still be clinical and professional and do the job. You know, and that's and you are now ticking them off like Skittles. Got the solar panel that Hamilton, Moy and Maida. You know, and Celtic have to be clinical and professional because you are on the countdown now with X amount of games to go. So Derek Crawford saying it won't happen, Sean, but we'd love to see Kyogo no playing a 2 up front. I don't think that will happen yet. Not ruling it out before the end of the season, though, Sean.
No, I mean, I've said before that the 4-3-3 is what he uses, but he's not always used that.
Yeah.
He has used different systems at different times in his career. He's obviously used the 4-3-3 for the last few, but depending on personnel, it's basically, to me, I might be totally misunderstanding him, but reading his book, reading interviews, reading things from before Celtic and at Celtic, it's never necessarily the formation that he's been married to. It's the style of play. So as long as they're playing the high intensity attacking style that he likes teams to play, then there's no onus on him to always play a 4-3-3. Now, in Scottish football, I suspect it probably will be a 4-3-3 most of the time. And as we spoke about on here, when you see the pass networks and stuff, Joe Hart and then one of the centre-backs, sometimes both, are the only players that spend most of a game in the Celtic half. The rest are all, to varying degrees, in the opposition half. So it almost isn't that much of an issue in Scottish football. In Europe, though, we've spoke about potentially playing a 4-2-3-1. I mean, strictly speaking, he could go 3 at the back. Whether he does or not, I don't know. But the signing of Jota means to me it is more likely that he maybe tries 2 pivots. And as I've said, when one of your pivots is Callum McGregor, it's hardly defensive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Well,
sorry, Tony, I've got one for you here. This is just a random question, but Katrina comes in saying, is Jota going to get the number 7? And I've actually wondered this myself. I love my squad number stuff. And Yakimakis obviously did well. Maybe not traditionally like technical number 7, but scored goals wearing a number 7. Jota's number 17. Do you think he might be asked for a wee change in the summer?
He might. I would certainly offer it to him if he wants it. But in kind of Portuguese style, CR7 and all that, you know what I mean? So that kind of stuff. And but yeah, I mean, it's something. It's a question that might be asked of him if he wants it. I know he's number 17 at the minute. He might want the number 7. Celtic have traditionally had wonderful number 7s. They'd be following a line of tradition, wouldn't they? Maybe there's room for a summer signing for that number 7 shirts, as Patrick McLaughlin. Maybe indeed. 7's a winger's number, and you're a traditionalist like myself, probably like yourself, Sean. I've always associated 7 with a winger's number.
Yep, specifically a right winger for some reason, but probably because of Jinky.
It's a good question, actually. It's here's hoping he gets it. Then I would like him to get it if he wants it. If there's some superstition behind the 17 and he wants to keep that, then so be it.
No, that's fair enough if he wants to keep it. But I think he
deserves the right for first refusal on it, doesn't he? Let's put it that way.
I think so.
Or first dibs, or whatever you want to call it.
He seems an ideal fit for a Celtic number 7.
He does indeed.
But Tony, I suppose we've got on to Livy. We need to mention David Martindale's comments about points per pound, which he says you all talk about. I've not really seen anybody talk about it, but I have had James Daly on. He's doing a column on that concept for us, just to explore the veracity of David Martindale's claim about points per pound. So look out for that over the next day or two.
I did like Angie's response that about the budget thing, and he said, "Well, he tells you that every week, doesn't he?" Did like that, but to be fair to Angie, also said he was doing a wonderful job, and he is doing a remarkable job, David Martindale. He clearly has ability as a football manager, Sean, and you talk about, managers and personalities and stuff. Say, there's not enough personalities. And then when a manager like Martindale speaks, they say, shut up. You know what I mean? So where's the happy medium there, Sean? The guy speaking his mind, and he defends his players, back his club. And, so I like Martindale. I think he's a very good manager. I think when he talks, he talks very, very well. And I don't care about what club he might support. He's a manager of Livingston Football Club. You and I support the football club, so what difference does it make? So I like his thoughts on football, and I think he's got a personality, let's put it that way, and he knows that his team have to play in a certain style. And like Ange Postecoglou said before, his team play a certain style, but they're good at it. And if you watch we get football stopped and all that, what's he meant to do? Open up and get caned 5 or 6-0 every other game? Now, Livingston are typically a hard team to break down. They play a tight defensive game and try and hit you with a sucker punch. I've got no problem with that, because I think those guys that play for that team do it and do it well, and they're a fit team, and they can run around all day and match you fitness-wise. So you have to come up with a system to beat that. And Celtic have struggled against them sometimes.
Do you know, and I referenced this, and I feel as if I keep going back to this Aberdeen performance, but I referenced this when I spoke to you about the way that Aberdeen set up in the first game back. Which, by the way, I've said to you plenty of times, Tony, I think that was the beginning of the end for Jim Goodwin.
Well, that was Jim Goodwin's downfall.
Partly, the reason I was kind of going on about it was, one, because I lived up there and I know the fan base and they're a proud fan base. They wouldn't have been happy with that at Pittodrie. But more than anything else, it was kind of tying into Ange Postecoglou's comments about Celtic's attitude in Europe, which was he doesn't want to ask them to play a certain way 99% of the time, and then the 1% that he says, oh, you're not good enough to play that style I've been telling you to play against this team, so we're just going to sit back, which is essentially what Jim Goodwin did against Celtic at Pittodrie, because Aberdeen were doing well at Pittodrie, they were doing well attacking-wise, and then he just says to them, like, you're basically not good enough to do it against Celtic, so we're not even going to try it. Now, the distinction I would draw with David Martindale, similar to yourself, is he's not making any bones about the style that they play. No. They play that against everybody. Yeah. They pretty much stick to what they are. Whereas the Aberdeen thing was, this is what we are, except if we play Celtic. But then if we play Celtic, you're not good enough, we'll just sit back, that kind of thing. So I mean, I have no problem if that's the way they want to play. It's up to Celtic to go and break them down. That's a distinction I would make between the kind of Aberdeen situation and the Livy situation, because I've seen David Martindale to Aberdeen. I think it was I can't remember, it was there somewhere, somebody, Brian Roberts saying Aberdeen for Martindale. Listen, he's done a really good job at Livy, so I wouldn't rule it out that they'd be on a short list. But I think when you're looking at, you're saying about style of play and different things, statistically they've got the third best defence in the division, right, for just goals conceded. So third best defence in the division, but statistically they concede chances at a fairly high rate, because they've got the third worst expected goals against and the third worst expected goals per shot against. So that bodes really well for Celtic, because that means, despite the fact they're not actually conceding, whether it's the keeper playing well, whether it's the defence performing above themselves, whether it's the system, they do still, or even strikers misfiring, they do still give up good chances. And if Celtic get good chances, especially at Parkhead, you know where I stand on it, they should be scoring a few.
Of course, and Celtic are going for a hat-trick of league wins against them. 3-0 at Almond Vale early in the season and 2-1 most recently. So there's no reason to suggest that Celtic can't complete the treble of Premiership wins over Livingston, Sean, tonight. And I'm fairly confident that they can and they will do that. But again, it will be a difficult game.
No, I think I agree with you. I mean, Livy, we've just said there's going to be no surprise about the way they're going to play, but they went 5 at the back against Celtic twice this season. Recently, they've been kind of playing 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, because they've been on a good run of form, right? They're unbeaten in 6, 1-3, drawn 3, and which I actually think is a really impressive statistic. Celtic, who've done it twice, Celtic and Hibs are the only 2 teams to beat Livy in competitive games since the end of October. That's a good run.
Yeah.
Now, there's been plenty of draws in there as well, but it's a good run. They've won 3 in a row away from Almond Vale as well, Tony. But, and this is where I always come back to it, if a team's going to Parkhead, they need to be in good defensive form. And as much as I'm saying, statistically, they've conceded the third fewest goals in the league, and all I've just said about they've given up good chances, they've only kept 1 clean sheet away from home since August the 7th. Is Parkhead really going to be the time that they break that run? Again, my money's on no.
No, I firmly with you on that. And on that, shall we do predictions, Sean?
Do predictions if you want. I mean, I'll let you go first this time, but I'll leave this in your head, right? They've never won at Parkhead, as far as I can see, Livy, right? But they've got 2 draws in their last 4 visits. Okay. The other 2 of those games have finished 2-1 to Celtic and 6-0 to Celtic, which has just left me all confused as to which score I'm actually picking here. Okay,
I'm going to go a hard-fought 4-0. There you go. 2-0.
Okay, 4-0. I'll go 3-0. I'll go with Alan Woods and Andrew Miller. He's saying 3-0 up at half time, but I'll go with these guys 3-0.
Okay.
I'm going to say Joel Newbley's expected to return tonight for Livy. He's not what you would call a goal scorer, but he is a presence. He is a threat. Cameron Carter-Vickers and him, they had a wee tussle earlier in the season, but so it'll be interesting to see what effect he has on them, because they've been on a good run without him as well. So
yeah, so Yeah, indeed, I think that will be a very good tussle if Joe Rubley comes back into the side.
Yeah.
Just wanted to flick this comment up and say thank you to David. Thanks for that. Don't know if you heard me on off the ball on Saturday, guys, but it was great. Enjoyed it. It was good fun. So thank you for that. As for the best guest I've ever had, I wouldn't go that far, but that's a compliment at the highest order. So thanks a lot, David. Appreciate that. So thank you. But yeah, Sean, I think you went 3-0. I've gone 4.
Yep.
Most people tipping a Celtic win. Hopefully preserve their 9-point lead at the top of the Scottish Premiership table. That's what it's all about.
Or extend it, Tony. Or extend it.
Yes.
You never know what will happen at Tynecastle. You never know.
Correct. Yeah.
That is Tynecastle, isn't it? Aye, that's Tynecastle.
Rangers travelling to Tynecastle to play Hearts. Yep. Indeed. We'll see how it happens. But it'll all pan out in fullness of time in a few hours' time. So all I can say is enjoy your night. Result dependent, of course. Hopefully it's another wonderful Wednesday. Sean, thanks for the contribution. First class as always. Always enjoy it. And I'll just direct you to our new deal running along the ticker tape at the bottom. Subscribe to the Celtic Way website and it'll cost you £2 for 2 months of access to everything that's written on the web. And you can help us continue to produce top quality Celtic content covering a club like no other by the click of a button. You know what I'm going to say, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to our sponsors, SENECA, the Celtic Way Morning Briefing, now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your comments. We'll see who's right in the predicted 11s. The bragging rights always. Someone said Aidan's got it nailed bang on. We'll soon find out, Sean.
We shall see, aye, we shall see.
But yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. Couldn't do it without you. We enjoy it every day. Built up a wee wonderful community on the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live, and we always enjoy it. Take care. We'll see you all again tomorrow to dissect the Livingston game, Sean.
Yep. Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.